Good morning. I'm Andy Barnett, the chair of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I'd like to welcome you all to our January 8th, 2026, it says 25 on here, 2026 hybrid meeting. All of our board members and staff are participating in a hybrid format. We've got some folks in the room, we've got some folks online. To help our audience follow along, I'll make sure that we state each section of the agenda aloud. We're streaming live over our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website, or you can watch on the live stream on the city's YouTube channel. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. For those of you who are out there today and joining us, welcome. For today's meeting, we have the option for people to call in and listen or comment live. To call in and listen to the meeting, please dial 855-925-2801 and enter the meeting code 7663. And follow the prompts to join the live speaker queue. Your phone will be muted and you will hear the meeting live. At this point, if you would like to sign up to speak, you will need to push *3 to enter the speaker queue. Before we get started with our roll call, I'd like to take a moment and remind everyone why we're here. The Affordable Housing Advisory Committee exists to consider affordable housing policy issues and advise city leadership about those policies, to develop concrete action steps to implement the highest priorities of the Affordable Housing Plan, and to update the plan as appropriate over time, and to advise city leadership and staff regarding affordable housing priorities for the investment of city-controlled funds. Currently, 4 recovery boards are meeting to help guide the city through recovery, and advisory boards are not meeting except in situations where they are assigned work by City Council, a council committee, or a department director. In our case, the Housing and Community Development Committee concurred with the Community Economic Development Director that AHAC should hold special meetings in regard to the development of a home repair policy, reviewing any changes to the housing and reviewing any changes to the housing trust fund policy. So those are department director. In our case, the Housing and Community Development Committee we'll try to keep it on straight and narrow. Economic Development Director that AHAC should hold special meetings without further ado, in regard to the development of a home repair policy, reviewing any changes to their housing and reviewing any changes. Our committee members and staff, members participating remotely, please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking and unmute your microphone when you would like to speak. And I'm going to do my best to try to watch the screen and see when people, we've got more of our committee virtual today than in person, so I'm going to try to make sure that we keep you guys fully engaged out there in radio land. All right. As I call your name, please say a quick hello so that we know that you're here. Alvarez Abernathy.
He sent a message.
Okay, so Alvarez is not with us today. Scott Adams also is sick today, and I don't think he's with us. David Bartholomew.
Good morning, everyone.
David, can you unmute your mic just so that we make sure we have audio?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Morning.
I see your mouth moving, but we're not hearing you. So we're going to work on that, and we'll come back around and see if we can get that fixed. Jane Kristen.
Yes, here. Can you hear me? It looks like they might be having audio issues.
All right. Well, we'll keep getting the AV figured out.
Okay.
Chris Day, you're right here.
Good morning. I'm here.
Paul Heathman.
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, now we have sound and lights and cameras in action. So, Tara.
Good morning. I'm here.
Brian Methvin.
Here.
Great. Nuena Smith.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here.
Stuart Zeiton.
Good morning, everyone. It's Zitten. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we're hearing you, but the volume is a little bit low in here. We're working on that, and But we'll go ahead and get started. Andy Barnett, I'm here. Janice Ashley, is Deputy City Attorney, is not with us today. Neither is Nikki Reed, the CD Director, but Sasha Vertinsky is here. Good morning, Sasha.
Good morning, and I noticed Carly Gillingham with legal is also in the meeting.
Okay.
Hi, good
Great.
morning.
Carly, I don't have your name on my little cheat sheet here. We're glad to have you with us today.
Assistant City Attorney.
And then Logan Smith from the Cape team, making the magic happen behind the scenes. All right. Well, again, thank you all for being here, and thanks for for those of you who are joining the meeting to participate and provide input. We're going to dive back into where we left off on the home repair policy development and a discussion around that. And I had reached out to both the Legacy Neighborhood Commission and to some of our repair program operators about joining us for this meeting, and with the holiday schedules and whatnot, we just weren't able to get those folks here. We'll get them here for a future meeting. So I know that was one of the things that we talked about last month, was needing some more input. We'll get that. We'll make that happen. In the meantime, I want to go back and revisit. There were several items that were lifted up in our December meeting. I'm going to try to tick through those kind of one by one and let us have a chance to discuss some of those points so that we can give input to staff, so that hopefully by our next meeting we have at least a working draft to react to. I feel like it's easier to think about these things when you're reacting to something on paper than just thinking about the blue sky of everything that could exist out there. So we'll spend most of our meeting on that. We're going to take a little bit of time and also look at our homework assignment that I gave to all of you after our last meeting, which was to look at the different repair programs that exist so that we can kind of understand the ecosystem of repairs. And I had put together a chart that's you have as a handout that we can refer to for that as well. But before we dive into all that, I want to remind you again that we're focused right now exclusively on helping the city consider launching a home repair program as part of the affordable housing plan, particularly as one of the key anti-displacement strategies that we're able to fund through bond funds. And remember, those bond funds are limited to capital expenditures. So this is one of the ways that we can put those bond funds to work to stabilize families and neighborhoods. We're going to be working to give guidance both to staff as they're putting that plan together, and also as Nikki Reed, the CED director, mentioned last week, to really lift up key considerations for HCD to be thinking about as they're reviewing that document. So that's really our goal. My particular goal within that is to make sure that we are able to get something, that we create a policy that we can get passed and get implemented. So it's I've watched this committee really work hard to put something together that was so cumbersome that it actually couldn't ever get out the door. And so I don't want to see us spend, a year creating the perfect mousetrap that never catches mice. So let's keep that in the back of our mind. Let's get a good enough policy that we can actually get out and have it have impact in the community. So that's where we're working from, kind of the ground rules going into today's discussion. I do want to give a quick update. We talked a lot last time we met about the scarcity of good data around repairs and the need for repairs, and the fact that a lot of our thinking around this relies on proxy data. And Scott Adams had a really exciting idea about potentially using the tax assessment data that addresses, they have a field in their data collection for the quality and condition of properties. And he was able to make some inroads with the county's assessment office to understand that process a little bit more. I don't want to, with him not here, I don't want to speak for all of that work, but it does sound promising. On a parallel track, I reached out to see if we could take the kind of cross-check the 500 or so addresses where Habitat's repair program has completed repairs with the tax assessment data to just see how strong the correlation is between what the tax assessor says about the condition of a property and houses that we know we've performed repair work on. So to see how strong that correlation is, to see if it could be a predictive tool going forward. So I hope to have those two pieces nailed down before the next time we meet so that we can really get a sense of that. If that assessor's data proves to be predictive of the repair need, that would really give us, that would let us kind of do some mapping or heat mapping around where in the city things are and kind of overlay that with other census level data at the tract level to figure out kind of what the demographic profile looks like in the places where the repair need is the highest. So it could be a really powerful tool to help us unlock a lot of the questions that we have around that. So just wanted to catch y'all up that there is some motion on that idea that came out of the committee's last meeting and more to come in March.
And a question, Andy.
Yeah.
I had to jump off early last time, but did we consider local provider data?
We haven't kind of aggregated local provider data yet, but we know MHO has a long track record with repairs. So does Habitat, so does Community Action Opportunities and their weatherization programs. And so, that's another source for us to kind of look at what's been done, but it's not exactly predictive of what needs to be done. So that's, but I think,
demographic data
you
and
could
all
use
of
it to do that same mapping and then figure
Absolutely.
out kind of what the trends are in who's being served right now, and as a way to suggest who might need to be served and where and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I know that MHO would be glad to help with that, to
Great.
be able to provide those demographics and
Perfect.
service provided.
Yeah, well, we could feed that into the work that we're already doing to kind of look at the correlation with the county's data. That could be a good starting spot for that. So yeah, we'll keep moving on the data front so that we make a well-informed decision as we roll this out. Second big thing another big thing that we talked about last month that I'd like to get a consensus kind of on the committee today so that we can really keep our work as focused as possible. We talked a lot about the need for rental housing repair. And that's in sheer numbers, those are the highest number of households who are living in, substandard housing in our community. The solutions to the rental repair need are fundamentally different from owner-occupied repair programs, and we're not sure at this point really whether those kind of solutions would be viable with bond funding. A lot of those are not kind of directly capital type expenditures. And so given the fact that there's not a lot of precedent for rental repair programs within North Carolina where we can kind of borrow those things and hold them up against our own state guidance, there's really very few that I have been able to track down around the country. I'd like to just sort of encourage us to stick a pin in a very important conversation so that we can move the thing that we know will work while we gather some more information about the rental repair need and potential solutions. So I don't know that we need to make that an official motion, but I'd like the sense of the committee about how you feel about focusing our step one work on kind of the lower hanging fruit of owner-occupied repairs.
Andy, can I ask a question?
Sure.
If we stick a pin in it, is this one of those permanent pins, or is it one of those like push pins that we could take out eventually? Only because we know that where the need is.
Right.
And I feel like that part, the marginalized communities are always the ones that we do not assist. And currently in our community, the renters are the ones who are having the most problems. And, you know, we've always talked about affordable housing, all of us in some kind of way over the years, but the hurricane has I'm trying to figure out the right word. I just lost the word. Yes, that's the word. The problem. And so now I can't keep ignoring that group because it's gonna. Thank God we didn't have they said it was gonna have a really bad winter. Last week it was like 64 degrees, you know. So I was like, okay, we're getting through this little by little. But the prediction was supposed to be worse. So I'm happy that we haven't had that problem. But I'm a little nervous about that pen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, how long are we gonna keep that pen in?
I think that's a really great comment, and I don't want to push it off the table at all. We just need to do a little bit more work on that, and I feel like if we're thinking about both things, we're not moving forward on anything. So if we can spend a little bit of time, and I would encourage all the committee members to talk to your networks, get on the internet, see what you can find of viable rental repair programs, and we'll continue to work with Sasha and with legal to figure out what of those rental repair strategies might be bond eligible. That's kind of the issue right now is the funding tool that we have to launch something is limited, and so that's one of my other questions. But other thoughts about that? And Sasha, you may have a thought.
I'll just say a couple of things. One is I wanted to make sure everybody knows the state just recently in the last 10 days or so started with kind of in the Renew and See, it's on the same webpage. They started their program for landlord repairs. It's 1 to 4 units, so it's small projects. So landlords, and it has to obviously have some storm tie-in, but the storm, but I would think that maybe if you had some storm damage, they're gonna help you with it, other damage perhaps, I'm not sure. But I wanna make sure that's out there and people know that the state does have a program now for that. And 2, another factor is that there's a very real staff limitation on starting another new program.
I know, Sasha, I know, I'm sorry.
There's, I mean, I don't know that that's happening for a while, for a
And I wonder
good while.
too about staff capacity. If we did something like this and you have to consider, tenant protections, affordability, and, who enforces that? It does seem like a huge undertaking, but I think being able to research and see if there are any best practices out there that we can glean from, but there are a lot of considerations for sure, and I agree, concur that the need may be great there, but I do also believe that there are owners that need this type of help as well, but we're gonna have to figure out how we can do both and.
Anything from our committee members participating online on this question of kind of moving ahead as a kind of 1A strategy on owner-occupied repairs while we continue to learn and what's feasible for rental repairs? Jane?
Hi, can you hear me on my cell?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I agree with the strategy of moving ahead with the owner occupied at this time, but agree with the push pin approach of coming back to renter occupied when we have time and capacity.
Anybody want to suggest what might be a good trigger for us to get back to this, just to Noina's point of like, this is a push pin that we can take back out easily? Like, can we give ourselves something to work to as a date to bring this back? Paul, I see you've got your hand.
Yeah, sure. Can we just keep it on the agenda? It comes up every meeting.
Yeah,
Great idea.
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Great. Yeah, I mean, and if this was, we really aren't in a position to kind of do working group, we would have maybe split out and had some people working on one and some people working on the other. But since we're already meeting every other month and we're kind of limited in that way, but I would say, like, those of you who are really passionate about this as an issue, like, do your homework between the meetings so that we can to kind of keep this as front burner as we can. Great. Any other discussion on this topic? All right, we're going to move on. So the next thing I wanted to look at was the homework assignment, and I thank you to those of you who participated. What we had asked was to look at the other repair programs that exist in our community, and I'm sorry, I should have made the homework assignment due a little bit earlier, so I could have gotten it all cleaned up and sent out to everybody. The folks in the room have a copy of the chart as it was all filled out. I think everybody else can access it through through our AHAC folder. You can see that, and then Logan, are you able to put that on the screen? Maybe for the folks in the room, it's going to be super hard to see, and I would just encourage folks in the room to know that this is very much and watching online, this is very much a work in progress, a working document, and, was assembled by committee volunteers over their holiday break. So, take it with a great deal of grace. But I wonder, as we're looking at this, I think it's important for us to understand that the program and policy that we're crafting doesn't exist in isolation, right? It exists within an ecosystem of other repair programs that at both the state and city and county level that are all contributing to basically the same goal. So I'm wondering if we can take a second, as those of you who did some work on this, who were part of filling this chart in, if you want to speak to things that you learned or were surprised about as you were doing this research, and while we're hearing from you, I'll encourage the other committee members to kind of go through this. I want us to look at where we have consistencies and where we have gaps within the existing ecosystem. But if we can hear from anybody who worked on this and kind of what you learned, what seemed like something that you didn't realize about the ecosystem of repair work. I will get the ball rolling and just say, as I was putting this together, I mean, even as somebody who, oversees a repair program, I was surprised at just the sheer number of different funding streams that were out there to support this work, and things that we're not, some we are taking advantage of, some we don't use, some we are kind of intentionally staying out of the lane of other organizations to use. So I was surprised to just see kind of the total volume of what's there. Anybody else have something that jumped out to them?
I mean, I guess I can comment on a couple things. One is, among these programs, there's different lien caps, is the language we're using, kind of the threshold of which it's a grant below that number, and it turns into like a soft loan that sits on the mortgage above that. Mm-hmm. So you'll see here near the county got some money, and it's not all filled out, I'm sorry, but the CDBG-NR, Neighborhood Revitalization Grant, they got that in '22. They got around $400,000 in the lien level, and this is from the state, they got this. So they inherited all the regulations. Like, they didn't have the power to change the regulations. So the lien level was set at $5,000. And they really couldn't get providers to use that money. It was just so low that I think my impression, or what I've been told, providers didn't feel like people would want to use that money or have liens put on their homes because of that. So they're repurposing that money for other things. So they tried really hard with this. I think they put out more than one RFP trying to get folks. Just for comparison, Buncombe County's program right now, their lien threshold's at $15,000, and they've got two different project caps. Like, if you are just a regular home repair project, the cap is, I believe, $30,000. 25,000, and 50,000 if it's Helene-related repair. And that's kind of a new thing they've added to theirs.
Sasha,
I'll stop.
you used the word providers not taking advantage of this. Help me understand big picture in the context. I mean, are these just individual property owners are
Good
trying to
question.
go figure out that these resources are even out there?
Great question. So, yeah, so all of, and Andy will correct me if I'm wrong, but all of these programs usually, like, we're making agreements with an MHO, a Habitat, Podarum, an actual provider, an agency of
Right.
some kind that does those repair, then works with all the different homeowners.
Yeah, so none of these programs are available for like me or you as a homeowner to apply directly to and receive funds and then fund our own repair. They all go through a separate step.
There's an
of
organization who's out
Right.
there helping them.
administering these funds, and then they handle the application process and the navigation, the marketing and outreach to the potential homeowner applicants, so that they're all kind of one step removed. And
And there are cities that do, or counties maybe, that actually do direct work with homeowners. But that's a whole nother level of staff.
Right, yeah.
Staffing that happens, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I understood
No,
the
it's
context.
a great,
yeah. I think the other kind of cautionary tale of that, the CDBG NR kind of, given the discussion of sort of the ecosystem of repair funding is like, whichever program has the most restrictive rules is the one that's least likely to get used. So as we're thinking about our program design, if we really want to see this money deployed, we don't want to be the hardest gate to go through, which is sort of what happens with that CDBG and our program at the county. It's like, well, nobody wants to sign up to administer that program if there's some other pool of money that they can work from. So that I think is just an important, again, kind of just like in the back of my mind as we're thinking about, a program that we actually want to see go out, and serve families, that's something to keep in mind. What else feels like it's jumping out to you as we're looking at all of these together, either things that seem consistent across the various programs, or what's looking like a gap to you?
Andy, how can we support the providers? Maybe if we, when we're building the program and the policy, if we somehow support the providers, I'm not sure about like administration costs or program costs. I'm not sure about like how, but I think a lot of the providers that are in our communities need additional assistance. So would that help them also be able to provide the money or the services or, all those things like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it actually is one of the, one of the limitations of a bond-funded program is, again, those funds need to go to basically direct capital cost. for those of you who were on AHAC when we were considering the down payment assistance program, that was one of the stumbling blocks there where like we were asking agencies to take on the administration of a new program with no administration dollars. And so this would kind of be the same thing, which, you know, we either figure out another source of funds to allow providers to have the administrative capacity to manage this, or, you know, particularly if we want to get new providers or maybe folks who haven't built up the capacity that some of the other repair programs have, you know, they're going to struggle to get in the game with this.
Are you saying no administrative funding or low administrative funding?
And I'm looking at Sasha, like I believe that with, like if this program is exclusively bond funded, it is, you know, that money is 100% dedicated to capital expenditure. Is that right?
No, we're allowed to do some administration, so.
Okay.
We did
I'm just
have-
basing that off, again, off our conversations around the DPA program years ago, so.
Oh, yeah, I can't comment on that. I don't know anything about that. But, yeah, we had administration money in the bond dollars we have out there right now, or just finished. The 750,000 contract with Archer, it had administration money in it. Because we know it has, you know, you have to support,
Yeah.
for sure.
Is there a percentage in mind?
Yeah, so I think usually it's between 5 and 15%. And CDBG, we kind of use CDBG, I believe, is up to 15%. And because Archer was just getting going and kind of creating new systems, and we're asking one organization to serve as the backbone for other organizations and taking all their receipts and putting all the reporting together. We gave each agency gets 10%. So if you're Community Action Opportunities or PODERMA or MHO, you got 10% at admin. And then there was an additional 5% for the folks running the Archer kind of backbone.
Is that enough?
I don't think we're going to go over that.
I mean, I know that, you know, if I had a magic wand, I would give everybody enough, or even more than enough, you know?
Right.
But
It's a good question.
as, you know, I used to work in the nonprofit world, and I know the struggles for the EDs and the teams. You know, a lot of times we used to work over an extra, even though we weren't paying for it, because we love what we did and we love the community. But the realization is, for some of these nonprofits who are, especially after hurricane, have been overly extended and not being able to pay their own bills or paying their own staffs to provide services, we're not gonna win. So we gotta figure out, even if we do have to maybe have a grant writer to finance a fund that we could use. I don't know. I still don't know all the processes, but I'm just saying, like, something has to be done because I feel like we're running ourselves in a hole, and then we're going to run our agencies in a hole, and then our providers in a hole, and then they're not going to be able to do the great work that we need for our community members. So I'm just trying to figure out how to balance all of them.
I think it's a good question, and I think between now and our next meeting, we'll be having some meetings with providers, and so this is great. This is great feedback. This could be one of the questions we talk about.
And it's also, thank you for setting me straight on the ability of bond funds to be used for administration. That's super helpful.
Because you have to, how are you going to get the money out?
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm just basing this on the AHAC conversations around the bond-funded DPA program that, like, we didn't have administrative funds. I think the other thing that brings up is, like, how burdensome of a policy we create really drives whether the admin percentage that we're putting in the program is going to cover the cost. So if, the more, the more due diligence and reporting and oversight and all of that goes in, that's required, we want to be good stewards of the community's money and all of that, but like at some point, like, unnecessary or, yeah, keep it simple. Any discussion? I'm sorry, I stopped looking at the screen to see if there were hands out there of folks of our committee members online. Any thoughts or comments on this question around administration? Jane?
I guess not on administration, but I had some additional questions just for us to mull on.
Yeah, go for it.
One of the other continuities across some of the research and based on the table that we have up was just the timeline that we want to use this funding. So over what period of time do we want these funds to be deployed? And is there any sort of like acceleration of timeline? So if we want, X amount of dollars to be used in year one, would it be possible to use more than that if there is a true demonstrated need during that time?
Say more about that, if you would.
Yeah, so I guess I was thinking, based on my research of the essential single family rehabilitation loan pool that's in the table, here they were denoting that assistance is provided, through the local nonprofit agencies, and that groups have a certain capacity to use their annual allocation. In this instance, it was 182,000. But if they were able to demonstrate greater need, they were able to then leverage more than that 182,000 allocation. So I'm just wondering, is there a hurdle that we want to identify that if there is proof of need, agencies and groups could use more?
And Jane, is that on a per project? They're able to exceed an amount on a per project basis or on their total award?
On their total award.
Okay.
But I guess we could also consider it on a project basis as well. I just thought it was an interesting component of that particular program.
Yeah, kind of a built-in reallocation.
Yeah. So that we're actually using the funds when there is need.
Yeah, and maybe, addressing that kind of the allocation, reallocation between agencies is something that, like operationally is probably beyond the scope of this committee, but certainly something to flag for staff as they're thinking about the mechanics and how to operationalize this. Great. What else? Other thoughts as we look across the programs that exist in our community? Let me play the kind of ask the devil's advocate question. Like, if we've got all of these programs, why do we need to do what we're doing?
And that's why I make my statement, because I'm trying to figure out if it's on a provider level or if it's, like, what's stopping people from using it, like
From using
the
the
barriers. What are the barriers for people
from these
to-
existing sources of
yes.
funding, right?
And how
Yeah.
can we support our community members and our providers so that they are eligible to provide those services?
Yeah. Shh.
Well, I guess, go ahead.
Jane, I see your hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess in looking, and I didn't look, in depth across every single program that's on here, but in looking at some of the programs that we did some deep dives onto, there are a lot of programs that there isn't actually a lot of annual funding in each of these smaller ones, at least. So I guess I'm curious, like, how much on an annual basis do these programs actually add up to that the city of Asheville homeowners, since this is for home repair, could actually access on an annual basis? Like, how much does that actually add up to? Because I don't know if it is actually a significant amount. And I guess is the question also, should we be using these programs to deploy additional bond dollars, or so like using kind of what's already in place, the structure that's already in place?
Yeah.
Is there data on, are these funds being fully utilized on an annual basis? Or are they leaving things on the table for how effective are these sources distributing their available funds?
The ones that are, so let's set the Helene-related ones aside because we just still don't have much of a track record for, things like Renew NC and those sorts of things. But of the steady state programs, CDBG, the Buncombe County Affordable Housing Services Program for repairs, DOE weatherization grants, those I know are getting fully expended, annually into projects. And I will also say to Jane's point, like most of the providers that I'm aware of are already layering multiple sources of funding to get up to the full cost of repairs. And so I do think, additional funds through the bond are going to serve to leverage some of these things that are already out here. Just having another program to talk about is going to give us, a little bit more traction in the community. I think there's been we have a new provider of the ESFRL program. They used to only allow one provider per geography, and they recently expanded that. And we have Land of Sky Regional Council is now a recipient of those funds, and will be kind of awarding those out into the repair network as well. Those are some of the trickiest dollars to administer, but they, I would say like pretty much everything that's on the list that's still viable is being used every year. Okay. And we still have the needs that we talked about, last month when we met, so.
And I think that the Helene-related repairs, that's a restriction. When we talk about, being able to write a policy that enables us to be able to utilize these funds to help and it not be a barrier, it is my thought that, a lot of these houses probably, there was a need prior to the hurricane. And we need to address or give access to homeowners, possibly renters and landlords, give them access to monies that are not restricted to Helene or Helene-related repairs, because the need existed before then. And I think, the Healthy Opportunities pilot, it's paused. And that was a great program. And we actually utilized it greatly and saw great progress and results at MHO through HOP. And so the health and safety and stabilization, I think, are key. And that I don't know if we're restricted by the bond funds with Helene-related repairs, but it also occurs to me that it's possible that people were able to access FEMA to be able to address some of those issues with repairs needed because of the hurricane. And so I just don't see restricting these funds to that being the sole eligible activity.
Yeah. All right, in the interest of time, I'm gonna move us on unless there's more thoughts about this program grid, and we'll have time you have time to sit with this between now and our next meeting. And again, I think we can fill in a lot of the blanks on the questions that we've asked today around what program providers really need to make this work and how it would fit into the ecosystem and what the uptake is on these other programs at a future meeting when we're able to invite some of our local repair program providers in to speak with the committee. So with that, I want to move us to there were several topics that came up as we talked last month, and I want to just see if we can lift up a few of those today and see if we can get to some consensus as a committee, so that so that staff can go back and start drafting something that we can then look at and reflect on. So I'm gonna, as time allows, I'm gonna tee up 7 things that I thought I heard last month and put them out there in an oversimplified kind of either or, so that we can have a little bit of conversation and see if we can get to some direction for staff and some clarity on what the committee's approach is, or at least surface what our other questions might be and who we want to have answer those questions. So I want to start with the thing that seemed like the biggest point of consensus last month, which was around income targeting. And it seemed like from my notes from last month, it really seemed like there was a strong preference from committee members to have this focused on, obviously it needs to be focused on 80% AMI and below, but there was an interest in having it focused and targeted on lower incomes, potentially 60% AMI. Some of the programs that in the program grid, I think the NCHFA's ERP program is capped at 50% of AMI. So let's talk a little bit about where the income targeting should be, and then the follow-up to that is, do we want to prioritize 60% AMI and below or 50% AMI and below households, or do we want to restrict the program to those to households at lower income? So that's my first question to you is let's talk a little bit about income targeting.
Say it. Okay. Y'all know how I feel. I've been saying it for like 2 years. We have to make sure that our marginalized communities are being taken care of. Mm-hmm. But the working class, the working community here in Asheville, Buncombe County, we can't afford to live here. I'm paying almost $2,000 for rent for a 3-bedroom that the appliances is from 1980. I turn on a dishwasher, and the dishwasher is one of those things that goes boop, boop, boop. I'm like, where did they get this dishwasher from? Yo, $2,000? No. I could barely feed my children because all my money is going to rent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yes, let's take care of the marginalized community. But those of us who are working in this community and really doing the work, we cannot afford to live here. And I need help. And I know there's other people here that need help also. I even applied for programs that we have on this list to find me a house, to purchase a house. And they say, and Wayne, you make more than the income, the qualifications. We added up your income, and you are $469 above the restrictions. Like, what the? You know what I'm saying? So I know I'm not the only one that's having this issue. You know what I'm saying? And then I get my water bill. The water bill, like, well, how much? But I'm happy because this is my first apartment that got a washer and dryer in it. I ain't lugging, laundry to the laundromat, with 2 kids wearing uniforms every day. You know what I'm saying? So I try to be humble, keep myself together, but we are hurting. And I try not to cry every day, but I'm tired of crying, and I'm tired of eating ramen. I want a PF shake. But I'm just trying to be real.
Yeah.
That's real.
We have to do something for the people who live in this city, in this county. You know, people who work here. I can't keep going to work advocating for the marginalized communities when I can't feed my babies. Okay, I said I'm not getting emotional today.
All right.
But I'm just saying, let's be real about the situation of living in Buncombe County.
Yeah.
Because on Facebook, I seen, it was like, Asheville is the place for singles. I was like, it must be rich singles, because I can't find a man here. Like, so I don't know what to do. But what I'm just saying is, like, some gotta give. If y'all want me to stay here on these commissions and work in this job, I gotta be able to feed my children, and I'm tired of eating ramen, okay? I'm tired of eating ramen.
So
Okay, that's it.
I'm hearing a resounding endorsement of creating flexibility for, like, recognizing the fact that even at, above 80% of area median income, we have real housing and affordability strain. And so as much as targeting might be helpful to some, it's going to leave other people out.
Yes.
Yeah. Sasha, what are our restrictions on the, with bond funding for use above 80% AMI?
Above?
Yeah. Do we have that flexibility?
I would have to look at that.
Okay.
I mean, I know for housing production, we basically say 20% has to be at 60% AMI if it's a mixed income thing. I'm not sure exactly how we would.
That's a research question then for
Yes.
maybe the next time, to just see if it's even feasible, and then, maybe we need a non-bond funded repair program or something that would get to that. So let's see, we've got, I got hands from, all right, I got David first, and then Jane, and then Paul.
Yeah, I don't think I can, make a stronger case for, prioritizing. Like, we're focused on avoiding displacement, which is a big part of this, right? We're talking about programs that are really meant to support people who are already here but are finding it difficult to stay. And I would just like to say, I'm not sure that we have to choose. I do think that we should prioritize lowest incomes. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it also helps us, target the people who are most in need first. But I don't think the program has to only do that. I mean, it can certainly start with an application phase where at the first application phase is for those at 50% and under. And I don't know how many we'll find. I mean, it's very difficult to live here at 50% to own and need home repair. To still be here at that level of income, I think we've already lost a lot of people because it is unaffordable here. And then I think you can move on to higher income ranges, and I think you will still you'll know more, and you'll achieve your target range, even if you have to extend it up above 80%, because certainly, lots of people who are working are just not able to afford here. I know, Andy, you talk about all the time, the problem with workforce housing as a term. It's just not really accurate, because so many people who are working are below 50%. So I guess that's what I would say is I would support targeting. I do think it's important to focus on those in our community who need it most, but I don't think you have to eliminate who the program's eligible for. I think you can just do it sort of on a rolling basis.
Okay. Jane?
First, just want to say thank you, Joanna, for sharing. Very meaningful. David, certainly agree with you, and also Andy. Is there a possibility for extending above 80% AMI, considering 100% AMI or even 120% of AMI, depending on the need of our community? Also, just thinking back to the exercise that we did with all the variety of programs that we looked at, some of those programs prioritized groups with children or elderly members. So I'm wondering if there could be a focus on 50 or 60% AMI, but then allowances, up to 80, 100, potentially 120 for families that have children or elderly members within them.
Sorry, I'm making notes. All right, Paul?
Yeah. Hi. Thanks. And when, yeah, thank you again. So real. That was very, very meaningful. Also, I just wanted to add to that, like the lending community from like the affordable housing lens through that lens is definitely now, like down payment assistance programs don't stop at 80%, for example. So I know just from where I sit, mortgage is definitely thinking of above 80% being a necessary move to make.
All right, this is why it's good to have multiple meetings, because I feel like I walked out of last month's meeting thinking this was a 60% and below AMI program, pretty forcefully stated by the committee. So I'm going to, and this month I'm hearing a real call for flexibility to 80% AMI with the potential for either a tiered approach or like a hardship waiver or a special waiver to go above that if it's feasible to do it. So I'm gonna ask out there one more time, because I mean, maybe we should have a different part of the committee on the call this month than we did last month. But anybody want to take the opposing view before we move off this topic? Because I feel like there was just as strong conversation around the reasons to restrict it to below 60% AMI last month.
For me, Andy, being on the camera and at home, I was dealing with a lot, so I didn't really want to use my voice. I didn't know, because the whole hybrid thing was new to us,
Yeah.
I've been used to being in the room with you guys, and so that was like a new experience. I was trying to behave being on the screen. But when I'm in the chamber, the ancestors, something say, listen, girl, I put you here for a reason. You need to speak up. So that's the only reason why.
Okay, sounds good.
And the only other thing that I'll add is that, we also need to consider our data as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, all of these are considerations, but we haven't got to a point where we understand what the data say either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to, I don't think a decision can be made about that until we consider it all.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's fair. So I want to, we've kind of moved in the discussion about, what are some of the kind of other priorities. Jane was mentioning some of the programs that, have a focus on elderly or families with kids or whatever it might be. One of the other things that we talked about last month was geographic targeting. And so thinking about this as a strategy around anti-displacement and knowing that we have sort of in the missing middle study and other places have identified neighborhoods that are particularly vulnerable to gentrification and displacement. Do we want to think about a program like this being targeted to those geographies that have been identified as most vulnerable to displacement? So I want to put that out there. And again, part of the backdrop on this is, goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. The more filters of priority we have, the more difficult the program is to administer. So we're kind of balancing, like the perfect versus the done. But I want to put that out there as we talk about, as we're talking about sort of who this, really with both the last conversation and with this, who benefits from this investment. So I'll shut up and let y'all talk about that. Jane?
Just thinking to the tiering of the system and also the balancing act that you just described, would it be possible, and I didn't see this in any of the programs that we researched, but I do believe I've seen it more on the national level, where there's kind of like a quarterly stage gate for deployment of funds where, we have our highest priority groups, where if there's applications in Q1, then the funds get released to those groups because they have been identified as highest priority. But then if the funds haven't been used, come Q2 or Q3, to make sure that they are being used by the end of the year, could we kind of have some of these other groups waiting in the wings in order to make sure that the funds are being used and aren't just sitting on the table?
Yeah. Yeah, it is tricky to figure out how to do prioritization in a program where, like, you're not getting all of the applicants in one, in one period where you can actually sort and rank them. You've got applications rolling in from homeowners as they have need,
Right.
and as they become aware of the program. And so at that point, it's really hard to do a prioritization because you're not, it's like, oh, well, we would have not prioritized the one that we did last week if we had known the applicant that we got this week was going to come in the door. So it gets a bit tricky from an implementation process. But I like that the tiered model or kind of a phased application, or the idea of of some sort of waiver, or, for when we're talking about the income level, that could
And I'm
get
sorry
around
if we've
that.
discussed this before. What's the term of the allocation, the funding? How
For-
many?
For how
many-
long?
Yeah.
We
for how
hadn't
long?
gotten to that question
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
Staff, correct me if I'm wrong. I would assume it's out there until it's spent, right? So,
We need to spend, my goal, we should check with finance. I know that the 2016 bond, we had 8 years. I think we have 8 years to spend it from it when it was but my goal is to spend it in the next 3 years.
yeah,
So that if,
I think we
if
want-
council decided to try to do another bond, that we have spent all our money.
once we've launched this, I don't think that we're going to have any trouble getting through $1 million. so.
Yes.
Right.
I see that Janice, you just came on the screen. Did you want to jump in on something, or are you just?
No, I'm so
Okay.
sorry I joined late. I had another call that I just couldn't get off of. So
Yeah,
no,
that's-
but I've
thank-
given
thank-
Sasha all my comments about your
Okay.
policy, so I'm sure she conveyed those.
Great. Thanks so much for being here. And yeah, I'm trying to be good about including the people who are not in the room. So,
Thank you.
any other thoughts around any really strong opinions that it either should or shouldn't have a neighborhood-based focus? Do we think when we look at the data and are able to sort of map where either the assessment data looks like there's concentrations, or where past program impact lands geographically, do we need that information? Will that suggest that income alone would also get things into the neighborhoods that we're most concerned about?
Just that.
I think it's all of it. I know it's hard, and I'll keep, adding stuff to our list, and Sasha's gonna kill me after this, but we have to make sure that we focus on those legacy neighborhoods to make sure that, those neighborhoods are protected. But we also have to rely, like Tierra was saying, the data. Let the data talk to us. Let's figure out where people are, because we also know that because of the housing, many people have moved out a lot of people have moved out communities and have went to Arden, Weaverville, or my coworker lives in Marshall now, because people can't afford to live in Asheville, Buncombe County. So people are going out where they used to maybe be in a legacy neighborhood or in housing authority or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can't find housing in Asheville, Buncombe County, so everybody's going out, which is not always safe for marginalized people, so.
I wonder, Chair, if, with that data that Scott Adams was suggesting around the Buncombe County codes, we could map that
Yeah.
and look at that. And I know we haven't verified whether or not that's an indicative thing or not, but that would be one place to start to see where that.
Yeah, let's see if we can get that by our March meeting in some sort of format.
And to answer your question, yes, I think we should strongly consider it. in terms of, you know, anti-displacement and gentrification. And so, yes, it should be a consideration. But again, like we talked about before, we need to take all of these things into consideration.
Okay. Janice.
Sasha may have mentioned this, but one of my comments when I saw the priorities in the neighborhood was to reference something, a study or data to back up why we're doing that. So I know that the missing middle study has a whole anti-displacement section and has a map of, they're not perfectly aligned with the neighborhoods, but closely aligned with the legacy neighborhoods, that says these are areas that are at risk of displacement. So mainly I'm saying when you prioritize and focus, and as you've already suggested, maybe state the data or a study or something that this is why we're doing it.
Yeah, that's good counsel. Any other thoughts on this topic? I'm going to go through my list of 7 things that I had, because we're not going to get to all 7, and go to the one another one that I think is kind of a hot topic for us that will help create some clarity here as we start thinking about drafting the policy, and that is where we should set the total project cap. So how much we're willing to invest in any particular house, and then the corollary of that would be how much, like where we should set a repayment threshold or a lien threshold, if at all, right? So those are kind of two. One's a hard cap, one's sort of a soft cap, and maybe we'll take those side by side or in 2 separate conversations, because when we think about the total project award, or sort of the maximum we are going to invest in any one property, it really gets to be a depth versus breadth conversation. Do we want to serve a few families completely? Do we want to serve a lot of families with, you know, maybe less impactful repairs, or, you know, a partial repair? Maybe we're just dealing with the thing that's kind of the most urgent or critical, and not addressing the deferred maintenance issues that are going to cause this home to be, you know, reaching back out for repair support a year from now, right? So depth versus breadth. Where do you lean as a committee? And then we'll try to put a dollar figure on that. And that, again, the dollar figure may be something that's better informed by some of our existing repair program administrators. But depth versus breadth.
And you're talking about total cap?
Total project cost, or total city investment in any one particular property.
And I just want to say, you know, I think one of the reasons, and I would love, you know, anybody else who has other knowledge about this, I think one of the reasons there are caps is because, and that it gets into the lien level and forgiveness and all of that, is that you're trying to, I think we're all on the same page of like focusing on vulnerable folks and keeping people in their homes, right? So, but we don't want this funding to encourage flipping a house, making a bunch of money and kind of, you know, and then going wherever. So there's kind of a balancing act there. So, and I don't know, Andy, a question for you, or maybe Tara, are providers adding other funds? Like, so if you have a limit on city funds, are you then adding other layers of funding to get the full cost? So that's a question for me.
Yeah, and I know at least for us, you know, at least for Habitat's repair program, we're layering funds on just about every project that we do in order to fully complete the repair need. I don't know, is that true for you?
I don't know the answer to that completely, but I would think so.
Yeah. A lot of that has to do, I mean, again, they're kind of 2 separate issues, but they're the same issue. A lot of that has to do with the within the lien amount, knowing that the presence of a lien has been a real roadblock to people being willing to accept this kind of assistance, even when, even on repairs that are, seem like they're kind of life or death repairs. People are like, well, I don't want to put a lien on my property. And so it's really more about staying under that level. The total project amount might have allowed us to do the full project scope with one funding source, but we're kind of tapping into all those, several different programs up to their lien cap to get the work done for the homeowner.
Can we come back to it?
What's that?
Can that be one of the push pins, like, for another discussion after we see the data? I don't know.
Yeah. So specifically what?
When you were talking about the cap for the project, the total cap for the project.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know that
Like what
any of the
suggestion?
data that we have access to is going to tell us
Okay.
what would need to be spent to really, kind of meet the need within a home.
What are y'all seeing in the community, like, as far as when you are getting requests? Like, what is the average cost, or, like, is it always like 10,000? And then we say, no, we can't really do that, we only could do, So, like, what are you seeing in the community?
Oh, go ahead. I can't answer it for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I could give you my instinct, but I'd rather hear that from the program administrators when we can have all of them in a
Okay.
room and prepped, rather than just
Okay.
kind of from.
Okay.
I'm trying to be careful of not wearing two hats
Yes, I
too much of the
understand.
time as the chair and, the habitat. So,
Let me just say for an example. So if the overall cap was 40,000 per home of city funding, doesn't mean more funds aren't being added from other sources, right? With $1 million, that gets you 25 homes.
I know.
So that's kind of that breadth and depth kind of question, Andy. So the deeper you go, the less homes you're going to actually be able to touch.
Right.
I will say, from the Archer data we got in December, for 750,000, the average cost was around 22,100. 22,000. So it was kind of, and that, again, probably using other sources. But that was kind of the average of what we saw.
And if we're considering stabilization, anti-displacement, we should be looking at things, I think, related to health and safety, as opposed to retrofitting or, those type of things, but, maybe even energy efficiency, to be able to allow for a home to be fit so that people can stay in that home. So I think these things can line up as to what our goal is and what we provide, how much we provide toward, the things that will keep people stable or stabilize people and keep people in place.
Brian's put his hand up.
Brian.
Yeah, it just strikes me that $25,000 isn't much money. Andy, in you guys' experience, is that covering real repairs to someone's home that's been damaged?
I mean, that's basically enough to treat sort of one major system in a home, right? That would do a roof repair, maybe two, maybe roof repair and fixing the water damage that was resulted from the fact that the roof needed to be repaired for, the last whatever, or, an HVAC upgrade or a, plumbing replacement, to make someone's bath accessible, or, kind of accessible bath and, and a ramp. So these are real meaningful repairs, at that price point. And, I will say all of the program providers that I know of are really good at stretching their money a long, long way. That's, there's not a, and these are modest repairs with modest kind of, durable but not flashy materials and that sort of thing. So,
Right.
that's,
And speaking of materials, material costs and.
material costs
all of
and
the
labor
things.
costs are, yeah, well, and that's another thing that we talked about last month, is how do we make sure that whatever cap we set is, we're not coming back 6 months from now and going, oh, we have to revisit this because it's no longer the right, it's no longer the right cap. So how can we build that in so that we've got an inflation responsive number in here rather than a dollar amount that, that makes the policy outdated. I think I'm hearing from the comments, and maybe I'm not, but let me see. I feel like I'm hearing that we want to hear from program providers what a meaningful project cost would be, but I'm getting a sense that our thought is we want to meet that. I'm not hearing a lot of like, hey, let's do 1,000 small repairs. Can somebody ratify that policy? You have your hand up, so I'm gonna let you get your question in before somebody see if I'm on the right track and hearing the right things.
Yeah, well, I was thinking we're talking about doing this sort of in rounds with regard to AMI, but can it be done in rounds? Like, can there be a high priority category of health and safety focused, and then I don't know what a threshold like that would mean, or how to draw that line, but it seems like if there's people living in really potentially below standard, really unhealthy environments, and the accessibility, disability side of things, that would be prioritized, I guess, as well, because that would be an immediate need.
Yeah. I'm also going to remind us, just because, and I don't want to sound like a broken record on this, but the more complicated we make, we've got a tier that's this priority and a tier that's this priority, and the more administrative burden we're putting on to city staff and the program administrators, and so the more money is going to go to that, and the less money is going to go to just getting the work done. I also think if we're saying, that we have a priority for a higher total project cap, to Sasha's point, that's going to mean fewer overall homes get addressed in this program, which might suggest that some of our, if we're only going to serve, what did you say, 25 households, then how crazy do we want to make the process for finding those 25 households if it's just going to be 25 households? So just food for thought again for the committee to consider, kind of the perfect versus the done in this. We have just a few more minutes to sort of nail down next steps kind of wrap up this conversation and move into next steps, so we have time for public comment. So I'm going to open the floor for any last thoughts on kind of the conversation that we've had thus far today on this program, and then we'll talk about next steps. Stuart. I think you need to unmute yourself, Stuart.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Great.
Okay. I heard with a lot of compassion in Weena's point of view. I get it. And I think, I know you're not alone. There's a lot of people in that situation. And I also recognize that we're continually avoiding the main solution to the problem, which is increasing wages and salaries in our region. But given that we don't have control over that, and that's not the assignment of our committee, it seems to me that it's kind of a no-brainer to serve the people with the highest needs first. That just, I don't know. I'm sure it can be argued, but it seems to me that's one of the things we should do, and maybe be a little less worried about how many households we serve, but rather what quality impact we have. I've been hearing people talking about the idea of making sure that the repairs you make are going to keep those people in the house. So if you just do the minimum repair and they're still struggling with black mold, then that minimal repair becomes less effective. So I think that's one piece that I want to mention. And the second piece I want to mention is I think the providers, I think we as a committee and the city as a politic needs to rely on reputable providers who can make a determination about the repairs needed in the house. For example, I understand the need to do a cap, but I also recognize that at some point the provider might assess that house and say, you know, we can't put enough money in this house to offset the idea of wrecking it and putting a new home in it. So I think on some level, there needs to be a little bit of flexibility with the cap as far as the need demonstrated in that particular home. And secondly, that I think as much as I totally sympathize with Edwina and a lot of us in that circumstance in the city where we don't quite make enough money to stay here, but we're struggling anyway, I think we need to focus on that piece of doing only repairs that are going to be effective to keep people in their neighborhoods, which would include focusing on the legacy neighborhoods to the extent that the law allows. And mainly, I think that hopefully if next meeting, we have some of the providers here, we can address some of those issues and questions so that they can provide us some more data. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Any others? Final parting shot. Okay, well, here's what I have for sort of next steps as we think about our March meeting. We're going to try to wrap up some additional data collection so that we can bring back some more information about what our existing providers have done within the city, and hopefully see if this county data is viable as a predictive tool of what might be what the unmet need might look like. You have homework assignments to research rental repair programs around the country and see if we can find a model that's worth seeing if it's viable in our context and and could potentially be bond fundable. We're going to invite next month some of our providers in to answer some of these, just like the operational questions about what is feasible and what would be meaningful based on what they can see, and hopefully have some kind of draft framework to respond to, so that we're not just sort of pulling things out of the air, but we're looking at something. Does that sound like the right next steps for the committee? Sasha, am I missing anything?
No, I mean, I was also thinking that staff may want to reach out to those providers ahead of March's meeting and really kind of get some of those details. And I don't know, I had a different version in my head, I guess. I don't know if there's one or two volunteers who want to, that I could share that information with, or some, it's almost like could have a couple volunteers help a little bit with that, and then kind of report back to in March.
Yeah.
So it's not just me kind of doing stuff, but that there's some knowledge being built up.
Yeah,
And I know people are really busy, clearly. So.
So are there a couple of committee volunteers who would be willing to just like help Sasha in drafting something?
Or maybe sitting in on a meeting
Or
together.
sitting in on a meeting
So
with
it's not a committee, it's
repair
just
providers.
volunteers.
Jane, I see your hand. Are you saying yes?
Yeah, happy to help, Sasha.
Okay, great. Anybody else?
I can sit in on meetings.
Okay.
Okay.
Dwayne is willing to jump in. I think, and I'm certainly willing to do that too. So that'll
Okay.
give you 3 people
Thanks.
to bounce things off of. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, absolutely. If you can reach out to some of the providers and get questions answered beforehand. But I still think it would be helpful to have them
Yes.
in a room in
Yes.
front of the committee.
Agreed,
just
agreed.
so that we don't, we can hear from that experience. Okay, any further conversations, next steps? Jane?
Oh, sorry, my hand is just up from the
Your hand was up from before.
volunteering.
Okay, sounds good. Then I think that brings us around to public comment. Do we have anyone who is in our audience today who would like to address the committee? Come on up. I think you have 3 minutes, and then we're going to cut you off.
Hey, y'all. I am Lexi Aaron with Disability Partners, Center for Independent Living. We support people with disabilities to help break down the barriers in their lives. Thank you all for this amazing meeting. Like, you are doing some really heavy lifting. My thoughts are, one, just a parliamentarian thought. Does putting the permanent pin that can be removed at any moment in time for rental housing repair, does that need to be a vote for it to be on the agenda? Revolving agendas?
I didn't
So
think
it doesn't
yeah.
fall off the board, and I know you won't in your heart, but.
I didn't think so. Andy asked me that question before the
Things are
meeting.
moving really quick, that's why I was just asking that. And I know that I live in myself between rage and fantasy. You know, I could stand on this table and rage all day long about AMI and how AMI doesn't actually really reflect our lives. Like the $460. If my rent my rent has not been raised in 9 years. My house has some major problems, but I wouldn't be living in Asheville. I would have left 6 years ago. That being said, I also recognize that absolutely 60 and below. So here's the fantasy. I know that we can't change federal rules around how AMI is calculated or how it is looked at. But is it ever possible that instead of looking at gross, that when we create programs and the rules around like how you're eligible, if we look at net? Because net is way different than gross. And that might make people who are that just over it, but are struggling so hard to still fall within parameters that they can get help. Just a thought. I don't know, I have no idea if we have that kind of, as a municipality, if there's that kind of flexibility, but it's a thought. And there was another one that I wrote down, and I have no idea where it went. Yeah, I mean, going above 80, it will lose the focus of affordable housing in the broader scope of things, because marginalized community is a really broad term. And they all kind of, yeah. So, okay, I've lost my train. Thank you.
No, that was really valuable input. Thank you so much, Lexi. Any other public comment? Anything that came in online or anybody in the speaker queue?
Nothing came in online. Logan, is there anyone in the speaker queue?
sorry.
Anything from Vice Chair? Did we invite her to?
You mean our council liaison? Yeah.
Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Mosley, do you have anything that you would like to contribute to the conversation this morning?
Well, thanks. I don't really have anything other than this was a great meeting. I'm particularly heart in Wena's comments. I really took to heart. Thank you all for working through this process. This has been really helpful for me. I've had some of the same questions. It's been really helpful for me to hear you all go back and forth about possible solutions. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. All right, if there's nothing else, we will.
Andy, sorry to jump in.
Yeah, go, David.
Did we do the minutes?
We did not.
Actually, thank you for reminding, I didn't want to interrupt the flow, but
Yeah,
thank you,
okay.
David.
Sorry, let's do that now. I'll take a motion to approve the draft minutes from the December
I have
meeting.
a small amendment to the meeting.
Okay.
My name wasn't on the roll call. I came in like 3 minutes
I'm
late.
sorry, I'll
And
amend
so I was included in the votes, but I wasn't on the, in the attendees.
All right.
You can
I
put me
will
as tardy on there.
I'll move to approve those amended minutes.
Okay, so David, you're moving to accept the minutes as amended to add Chris's name. Any, second?
Second.
We got to do roll call. Andy Barnett, aye. Brian Methvin,
Aye.
David Bartholomew,
Aye.
Jane Kristen,
Aye.
Chris Day,
Aye.
Paul Heathman,
Aye.
Tara Irby,
Aye.
Nuena Smith,
Aye.
Stuart Zitten.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. Thank you for catching that, David. Anything else I missed? All right, y'all, thanks for a great meeting. We stand adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.